Android, and welcome to Hammer Reviews. I'm going to be finally getting around to uploading my first thoughts on Deep Breath, the first episode of Series 8 of Doctor Who, featuring Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman as the 12th Doctor and Clara Oswald. I reviewed Doctor Who before, but not like this, not as an actual video with the chance for pictures and clips and whatnot. I've only done it as written reviews on my Tumblr. Mostly I wanted to review this episode because I wanted to have a look at whether or not Deep Breath suggested change to the series. One thing that a lot of people I have spoken to have expressed is a dissatisfaction in the quality of Stephen Moffat's writing since at least Series 6. So I just wanted to have a look at this episode in particular to see, well, with a fresh Doctor and a new sort of status quo, has Stephen Moffat changed how he approaches writing the character and how he approaches writing the series. So I think I'm going to be doing this as a continuing sort of series throughout the rest of the season. I have got thoughts written up for Into the Dalek, which is episode 2. I'll see if I can get that up a little bit more punctually than this review for Deep Breath, though. So without further ado, let's get into Deep Breath. I really like the new opening titles that they've gone with. The Clockwork theme is really different, but it also kind of evokes a time vortex, which a lot of the previous openings have done. Just, it's a very different image of it than to anything we've seen before. I actually watched the original fan video during the break, and I really like how it's been cleaned up for the official opening, and I really appreciate that they've approached the fan who made that video, and they've had him, I don't know if he's entirely responsible for cleaning it up, or if he was part of a team, but I like it that they've actually gone and gotten them involved, rather than seeing it on the internet and saying, here BBC CGI team, go crazy and make something like this. They're respecting the creative integrity of this person, and they're furthering his career because they've found something they've liked. They think other people have liked it. They're giving him the chance to do this professionally, and I think that's a really good thing. I have to commend Ben Wheatley for the cinematography of the episode. The color palette is really, really well chosen. Not to mention the shots they used in the opening sequence to depict the Tyrannosaur. Now, the Tyrannosaur in general is just a bonus for me because I've always had a fondness for dinosaurs and this sort of stuff. So just sort of being able to compare the model used in Deep Breath with the models that have been used in stuff like Walking with Dinosaurs, it does compare relatively well. The only fault that I have with it is actually that it's not feathered. This Doctor Who is the BBC's flagship series, and it is science fiction, so it is a place where the BBC can introduce these elements of, I guess, education to the masses. Doctor Who's always sort of been relatively close to the cutting edge. There was this featurette I watched on the Doctor Who and the Silurians DVD that To Entertain put out that went into the history of the use of tectonic plates as part of the world building for that serial. It was the first Silurian story, so it does have some connection with Deep Breath, but even back in the 70s, tectonic plates were only a relatively recently accepted and commonplace theory. Considering how quick and how fast communication technology is these days, the fact that we've got feathered dinosaurs has spread like a wildfire. You've got memes about it, you've got backlash against science ruining dinosaurs as if we as a culture had some kind of claim on their image as giant reptiles. So I'm just a little bit disappointed that the BBC didn't in some way show a feathered dinosaur on their flagship. It would have been a way, I suppose, to show that these things can still be cool even if they're not giant, big reptiles. A common complaint that was leveled against Russell T Davies during his tenure as a showrunner was that we had a lot of stories that were set on contemporary Earth so that we could have the families and stuff. And Moffat's done a really good job of avoiding that, but something that a lot of people seem to be picking up on is that we are spending a fair bit of time with the Paternoster gang, which is Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax. And in some way, they're almost taking that void left by the absence of a companion's family. So we're spending more time in Victorian London. I don't see that as a problem here. I know some people think that the Paternoster gang is being overused, and we're seeing a little bit too much of them. They were really great for that one episode. They were very, very popular, very good characters, but seeing them all the time in Doctor Who is kind of restricting a lot. I don't see that as a problem here with Deep Breath. What Moffat is doing is he's taking a common trope with Doctor Who. In the classic series, you would all the time have the first episode, the Doctor surrounded by something familiar, so we get this easing into the new role. Patrick Troughton had the Daleks, John Pertwee had Unit, Tom Baker ran the gauntlet with a Unit story, a Sontaran story, a Dalek, and a Cyberman story. The Master oversaw the regeneration from Baker into Davison. Colin Baker, in his first proper full season, even reran the gauntlet against the Sontaran, Cybermen, and Daleks. Plus, we had the Master return as well. So, having the Paternoster gang isn't out of the ordinary. It's just giving the audience something they recognise so that we give this Doctor the benefit of the doubt. We've got the Paternoster gang, we like them, we'll watch the episode for them, and while we're enjoying their banter, their interactions, we'll also grow accustomed to Capaldi and how he bounces off of them differently to Smith. Moffat's doing the exact same thing next week using the Daleks. It's just setting these familiar characters up and allowing the audience to grow accustomed to the character while the characters are growing accustomed to the character. I'll talk more about Jenny and Vastra a little bit later, but I just want to bring up Strax now. Strax can be a very funny character at times. The problem is that he's very much a one-trick pony. Moffat has latched onto the fact that he's a Sontaran. Sontarans are soldiers, therefore everything has to be about soldiers and stuff. Find that there are some really good scenes with him. The one I'm thinking of particularly is the TARDIS, where he's a Sontaran, he's got military mind, he uses military tactics to draw in the Doctor, and, you know, as he says, old habits die hard. But although that scene was funny, he's just completely oblivious to other things, and even the medical exam. When we first saw Strax, he was working as a nurse. He's got medical training of some sort, and he's completely out of his element there. He has no idea about human biology, but we saw him treating a human child in his first appearance. I can understand if maybe he's not come back completely right, but this is something that's part of his character, and it's being abandoned for a cheap laugh. And I think this is a common trend with Moffat, in that he'll come up with something that's a clever idea for a little joke, but he'll give it to characters who it just does not work with. I sort of feel as if, in explaining the regeneration and exploring the regeneration, Stephen Moffat has used Vastra to cast commentary upon the series itself. He mentions through Vastra that the Doctor wore a young face so as to flirt with the universe and to be accepted by people. Basically a veil to disguise his true sort of nature. I'm not sure if that might have been a commentary on Stephen Moffat's own casting decisions, because he did say that he had thought about casting Peter Capaldi as the 11th Doctor back in 2009, but they instead went with Matt Smith. I'm not sure if he's suggesting Matt Smith was cast not only because he felt like a logical progression from David, but also because he had that younger face. He'd be accepted by the fans of the Tennant era in a way that Capaldi may not have been able to be. So I'm not sure if maybe he's being a bit clever there. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, and he's actually just being typical Moffat and trying to sound clever, and I'm actually finding something that can back it up. Something that I really like about Peter Capaldi's Doctor is that he actually does feel like a classic Doctor. I know that Stephen Moffat has been promoting the series as he's not going to be like David Tennant or Matt Smith. He's going to be more like that classic Doctor. And as soon as they released his costume, there was immediate comparisons with John Pertwee. But actually watching the episode, I don't think John Pertwee is the Doctor I would compare him with. I think I would actually compare him with Tom Baker. I'm not sure if it's just because of the voice or even his sense of humor, but for some reason I'm thinking he's very much like Tom Baker. Peter Capaldi also has a very good wit and a very good sense of humor in this episode. I think my favorite line has to be just after Clara's been saved by the Doctor from Robotica's dent, and the Paternoster gang has descended down as the cavalry, and the Doctor goes, "Did you hear that? You may be able to kill us, but they'll still be closing your restaurant." I just think that's really funny. And he also got some other really great lines, such as, "You're all 40, you're all speaking English." He's got this... It's just a really nice sense of humor, and I'd appreciate it if that sort of carries on. Even if maybe he makes a comment every now and then, he's got a terrible sense of humor, but just this guy he's seen so much, and he doesn't actually have to take it all that seriously. He can afford to make light of it at times, ease things up. I mean, particularly that line about the restaurant, it comes just after Clara's been put through the emotional grinder. I'll get to that just very shortly, because I really do want to talk about that scene, but it's like, it's a reward for us. We get this small scene of levity after having stuck through this really trying scene for Jenna Coleman's character. Because this is a 77-minute long episode, there is almost twice as much material to talk about in comparison with a regular Doctor Who episode. As such, I am going to be splitting this into 2 videos. I'm terribly sorry for leaving it this late into the video to mention that, but in the next video I'm going to be discussing Clara, issues of pacing, tone, and I'll even get into a lot more detail with regards to Madame Bastra and Jenny, and I'll touch briefly on Missy as well. So I'm going to be putting a link to that just up there by the Beatles thing in the background, and I look forward to joining you then. Okay, so I'll see you shortly.